Welcome to Biz Help for You with host Candy Messer. Entrepreneurs like to focus on the big picture, like profitability, success, and a smooth running organization. There always seems to be those little things like taxes, employee compensation, laws, regulations, and more. Now, you can get the answers you need in one place. Join us today as we break it all down for you. Now, here is your host, Candy Messer.
Hello and welcome to Biz Help for You with Candy Messer. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you found the information on last week's show, Virtual Selling in the Digital Era, informative. If you are unable to join us and would like to listen to the show, links can be found on our YouTube and Facebook pages, as well as links posted to iTunes, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and Spotify. If there are topics you'd find beneficial or questions you have, please feel free to reach out to me at media@abandp.com. Now let's learn a little bit about our guest today. Angela Dorsey, founder of Dorsey Wealth Management, is a fee-only financial planner in Torrance, California, providing wealth management and retirement planning for women and couples. Angela has a certificate in financial planning from the College for Financial Planning, an MBA from the Anderson School of Management at UCLA, and a BS in computer science from Loyola Marymount University. Angela is a certified financial planner and a registered investment advisor. She's a member of NAPFA, which is the National Association of Personal Financial Advisors. Angela created Dorsey Wealth Management because she had a lifelong passion for financial planning. She enjoyed helping others better understand and organize their finances, then put a plan in place to achieve the financial goals. While helping her friends who were smart and successful women, she noticed many didn't have the knowledge and confidence to manage their personal finances well. As a result, she found that many of them felt embarrassed and ashamed about their finances while promising themselves to get their finances in order someday. From this experience, she saw the need for financial planning for women. So, welcome to the show today, Angela.
Thanks, Candy. Thanks for having me.
Sure, glad to have you back. I know we had you when I was doing Voice America, and now I'm glad that you could be part of our podcast here too. So I wanted to start off, first of all, with just telling us a little bit more about your background and how you became a financial advisor.
Well, sure. Well, as in my bio stated, I've always had a passion for financial planning. Even when I was a little girl, I enjoyed reading Money Magazine and looking at, the stock market, and I was just so fascinated by it. So I was just naturally drawn to it. And as I, progressed through my career, I would notice that a lot of the women who I worked with really didn't have, I would say for myself, kind of the basics of how to build a strong financial future. And so I started, helping them as I could, helping them with their 401k, pick out investments, help them with, general budgeting type questions, stock market questions. And I found that really fulfilling because I found that I had a natural interest and talent in that area. And I saw a huge need for that. Mm-hmm. Now, at the time, I was working in a corporate environment. And so after a few years, I really got to a point where I really wanted to be self-employed, have the freedom and flexibility of being self-employed. And then I also wanted to, I would say it's more like a calling to really help people, especially women who are in charge of their family's finances, really partner with them and help them to achieve the financial life that they so strive for. And so I actually started my practice part-time, while working full-time in corporate. And I was able to build up my practice to a point where I was able to, kind of cut that cord and take the leap and become a business owner. And it's been so rewarding. Each year I find out how great the need is for women in financial planning. It's very much an unserved market. And, for women, there's not a lot of CFPs, financial planners, who are women. I think it's only 23% of women have their CFP. So it's a natural fit for me. Yes.
Perfect. Well, we know there's obviously challenges to being a business owner, whether you're, a man or a woman, but what is it about being a woman business owner that really has those additional challenges?
Oh boy, yes, it's especially challenging. It's challenging because we wear so many hats.
Mhm.
Not only are we, juggling meetings with our clients, trying to market our business, we're trying to, we have family commitments. And so we're really torn in so many directions that it's really
Mhm.
hard to focus on things that aren't really knocking at your door.
Mhm.
And so it's really easy to put your finances on the back burner. And so I would say with a challenge with that is finding the time and then
Mhm.
also developing the expertise to really focus, in that area. And, with the day-to-day activities, business women, we're focused on, growing our business and protecting our business. And it's really difficult to also carve out time to do the same for
Mhm.
our finances in terms of growing our finances, protecting it, and then seeking out information that would help us in that area.
Right. Well, and I think too, I mean, especially single moms, right, who are business owners too, you can see where that would be a real struggle because they're trying to balance, their kids and work too. But even for those who are married that have spouses in the home, especially now with COVID, right, and having to potentially homeschool kids and run your business and,
Oh
maybe work in the
gosh.
same room with your spouse, even if he's having to work from home too. There's so many challenges even now that are
Oh,
really
even
starting to impact us.
no, that's a great point. I mean, even with COVID, there's just an extra layer of complexity. Now
Hmm.
women who have small kids at home, fortunately for myself, my kids are older and in
Right.
college, but to have kids at home and you're homeschooling, oh my gosh, that's
Hmm.
such a tall order to try and manage. I
Right.
can't imagine. That's really
Right.
difficult.
Exactly. Yes, I'm in the same boat where mine are older now too. And just I did homeschool for a while, my kids, although we always did it through a public charter school. So it wasn't the same as having to plan everything. But I remember those days. And that was right when I was starting my business too. And it was a struggle. But thinking now of these people that are trying to do everything, running a business with the challenges that they're facing now, plus the family things that are going on and kids going stir crazy too, because they can't even necessarily be outside as much and playing with their
Right.
friends. It's got to be a tremendous burden.
And Candy, the reality is you cannot do everything. You
Hmm.
really can't. And so I think juggling is a good word for what we're doing right now.
Hmm.
Really just trying to hit the priorities, keep things moving, but you really cannot do everything and do
Hmm.
everything you want to do. It's just a
Right.
matter of making sure that you try not to ignore a major piece, but it's really difficult to do everything. But
Right.
we try, don't we?
Yes, we sure do. But I would love to touch on first, a lot of times you hear business owners saying, well, I'm going to just work really hard in my business and that's going to be what I have for retirement. I can sell my business and, have my money for that. And we know even because of times now where people might be thinking they wanted to sell a business and there's extra challenges around that now. But even when we're not in the midst of a pandemic, why is it not a good idea to think that your business can be your retirement plan?
Yes, that's a great question, Candy. Well, your business it's a part of a good strategy,
Hmm.
but it's not the complete strategy. Just like your investment portfolio, it needs to be diversified.
Hmm.
And with a business, it has ups and downs, and we like to think that we have total control over our business, but there's many, many aspects that we don't have control over, right?
Right, for
Some
sure.
days are just really obvious that we don't have total control.
Hmm.
um, and so with that, at the end of the day, when you think about, well, my business is my retirement plan, there's so many unknowns. There's
Hmm.
no guarantee that you'll be able to sell your business, if
Hmm.
that's your strategy, or if your strategy is to withdraw money from it, maybe it won't be a sound strategy. I mean, think about all the people who had that strategy in 2020, that
Right.
didn't quite work out.
Hmm.
Um, and so there's so many factors that can influence what you'd be able to withdraw from a business or be able to sell a business, Or if your plan is to continue to work, many of us, we
Right.
love our business, it's our passion, and we can't imagine ever wanting to retire. Well, maybe, your mind wants to continue, but your body says no.
Right.
Maybe, unfortunately, you have some health challenges and there's just some things outside of your control. Maybe, you're taking care of a family member. You really don't know. So it's part of a strategy, but it shouldn't be the only thing that you count on. And so that's why I really encourage women business owners to look at their business as part of their plan, but then also have other assets, for example, more liquid assets, an investment portfolio that would help them to navigate retirement. Just like with an investment portfolio needs to be diversified, your retirement plan needs to be diversified.
Right. Well, and I know we're going to talk on, there's a few financial mistakes that we're going to cover today. And so why don't we start talking about that first one? What is the first mistake that you want to discuss that women owners are making?
Well, yes. Well, to continue the conversation about, not letting your business be your retirement plan, you really need to figure out, what your goal is. So I would say the first challenge or mistake that women business owners make is to not have a personal goal of when they'd like to retire. They have all these goals for their business. They may have annual goals, quarterly goals, monthly goals
Right.
of what they want to achieve and what they want to do for their business. Okay, great. Well, let's transition that a bit to personal. When would you like to retire, and what does retirement look like for you? And I think that would help shape what you would want your business to do for you. For example, if retirement is completely letting go of the business, completely doing something else, then maybe you want to bring in someone who can eventually take over the business, or maybe you want to start selling shares to someone to eventually take it over. So I think it starts with having a goal. Well, what does that look like? Do you want to work part-time? Do you want to work as a consultant for your business? Do you want to sell it? And also, if you're married, discuss that with your spouse so that the two of you are together and what that looks like. And from that goal, then the plan can be, well, what should retirement look like? And how does that shape perhaps the long-term plan for the business?
Right.
So that's where
so
it starts
important.
with. Yeah,
Right.
it's important to know where you want to go. Where do we want to go, and then figure out how to get there.
Right.
So
And
that
that
has
could
to
change
happen
over
first.
time too. It doesn't mean that you write it and it's like set in stone. So it's probably look back at it over time too, just like you would look at your investment portfolio and does something need to be rebalanced? Do I need to change anything?
Oh, that's a great point. Yes. Plans do change.
Mm-hmm.
They do change. And you have to be flexible. And so, and we have to be okay with that. Maybe,
Right.
Last year we wanted our goal to be something different than what we want our goal to be now. And that's perfectly fine. We need to be flexible and change with the environment, change with our personal goals, change with our family situation. And so that's why I do think it's good, just like you mentioned with your portfolio, to revisit it annually. Maybe what your goal was 5 years ago isn't really your goal today.
Right.
And so, and discuss it. And I think it evolves, just like our goals evolve, our retirement goals can evolve too.
Right. So after they have figured out what their goals are and what they want to achieve, what would be their next step?
Well, once you know kind of where you want to go, you have to figure out, well, what do we have so far, you see? And I found that, especially when I take on a new client, the first thing that we do is we get organized, because a lot of people don't really know what they have. They know they have accounts here and they have accounts there, but they don't really know what investments they have. They really don't
Right.
know what that particular account or that investment is doing for them. And so I really encourage someone, if they, after they've set up their goal, is to really kind of take stock of what they have.
Mm-hmm.
You see,
Mm-hmm.
they may have a bank account. Well, do you have too much cash in your bank account? And I'd like to touch on that later in terms of women having too much cash.
Okay.
And that you would think that that's a good problem to have. However, if you're too conservative, then it's not good. But we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
But yes, so you need to get organized, figure out what you have, and try and understand. So if you have an account with a certain financial institution and you don't really understand what it is, just give them a call and ask them, can you explain to me what this investment is and how am I being charged? And what type of investment is this appropriate for? And really assess if that type of investment is appropriate for whatever goal you've set for yourself. So I would say, you get organized and then pull together kind of a net worth statement. And a net worth statement is a really good summary. And if you're married, then I would recommend that you discuss a net worth statement with your spouse. And especially if you're not the one managing the family's finances, let's say your spouse is managing the family's finances, then it's really critical to have that net worth statement so that you stay informed.
Right. And talking about that net worth statement, can you just explain to a listener who maybe is a little confused on exactly what information is on there? What really is a net worth statement?
Oh, sure. Yeah, sorry, I throw out these jargons out there.
No.
A net worth statement is a document. It doesn't have to be a formal document. It can be handwritten. But basically what it does is it lists your assets, basically what you own, and then it lists your debts, which is what you owe. And so typically on a net worth statement, on the left-hand side, you have everything that you own. So you would have your bank accounts, your checking accounts, savings accounts. You would have the fair market value of, if you own your home, a home, rental properties. Some people even put their business, like if their business has been evaluated, you can have, the fair market value of your business. So you put all of that on the left-hand side, and then you total that, so your portfolios, your real estate, everything you have, you total that, and that's your total assets. And then on the right-hand side, you list everything you owe. So if you own a home, you put your mortgage. If you have a home equity line of credit, you put that. Credit cards, car loans, student loans, anything that you owe, you put that on the right-hand side and you total that. And then you subtract what you owe from what you own, and then that's your net worth statement.
And hopefully it's positive.
So and hopefully that number is positive. Yes. Yes. Hopefully that number is positive. And that number, what I love about that number is it's kind of like a financial gauge, a financial report card, where with that number, you can really get a sense of your total financial picture.
Right.
And then if you track it, you can see, well, is my net worth this year greater than, say, last year? And you can detect some trends. And then if you say, oh, wow, my net worth went down, but my investments did well, what happened? Well, if you look and you notice, well, my liabilities went up, you see. Is there maybe, some issues with the debt? Maybe are you using the credit card too much, or incurring other loans or debts? And so it's really a great way to just take a really quick snapshot of what's happening, and a great way to track what's going on. And it's a good way, a conversation piece too, between couples, where you can see this one document, and it's a great way to stay informed in terms of what's happening. So what, loans are being taken out, and where the accounts are. So it's a really great, it's like a report card.
Well, especially if one is a spender and one is a saver, they can really look at the impact of, this is how we're doing because we saved, or this is how we're doing because we spent, so it's a good thing to look at. And I was going to say the
Yeah,
same
it
thing in
is.
business. In business, they have the balance sheet, right? So we're talking to
Yes.
businesswomen owners. So if you're familiar with the balance sheet, right, you have your assets and your liability and your equity. So it's similar on the personal side too.
Yes, it is really similar. Yeah, that's a great analogy because you're able to get a really quick snapshot of your total financial picture,
Mm-hmm.
and you're able to see trends. You're able to compare it to last year, to 5 years ago, and you can easily spot, red flags. Like if you notice that, say, your liabilities are increasing, well, is it good debt or bad debt?
Right.
Maybe if you just purchased a home or purchased rental property, well, that's good debt. But if you notice that your liabilities are going up because maybe you're charging too much and not paying it off, not in the position to pay off your credit card every month, then that's a red flag. So that's why I like to look at the total picture and not just your assets, because that can be misleading. You need to look at the other side too.
Right, exactly. So I know we said we were going to talk about a few mistakes. So what would be another mistake then that women business owners may be making?
Well, I think I'd like to continue with the whole debt and what you owe conversation. And I think that is a very slippery slope, and it's something that can easily happen if you don't have a budget. So that is the next mistake where it's really interesting. I mean, I have so much respect for women business owners. We just do so much, and we're just really amazing.
Right.
And we have a budget for our business. We make sure we invest wisely, that we don't overspend. We're really, watching every penny. However, I see that sometimes that same level of attention and detail isn't spent on the personal side. I think because the skill is there. So it's not a skill, it's more like the attention, again, being just pulled in so many directions. It's just something that's just not, focused on. And so with that, women, could really use a personal budget. And I know we hate the word budget. It sounds so, oh my gosh, I don't want a budget. But it's not as bad as it seems. It's really more like, okay, am I spending in a way that supports my goals?
Right.
I'm not saying you can't go out and shop or buy shoes or go out to dinner or anything like that. It's really, are you spending in a way that supports your goals? And so if you set your goals and you have your retirement plan and everything, and you know that you need to have a certain amount saved, well, if you're saving that amount, if your credit cards are not going up, again, I go back to the net worth statement.
Right.
If your net worth statement looks good and the trend is good, well, then you don't need a strict budget because you're doing the right things. You're saving money. You're not living above your means, taking on additional debt. And so with that, having a budget means that you are on track to achieve your goals. It could be as simple as that. If you're saving, paying off your credit cards, well, that's your budget right there. You see, you don't need to do a detailed, well, how much did we spend on groceries this week? But if there's a problem, then I think you do have to kind of take a few steps back and really understand where your money's going so that you can make some changes. And you might be surprised. I know when I go through this exercise with my clients, they're always surprised in terms of where the money is going. And then they think, oh gosh, I really don't want to spend so much money on X. I could do without that. So it's making a conscious decision of how the money should be spent. So a budget really creates awareness of the cash flow, and it focuses on your goals.
Right. And that's what I was thinking. If they really think of it as meeting their goals, not like, oh, I can't spend, anything, but it's like, what are your goals and what do you need to get there? Well, this will help you, right?
Yes,
So,
this will definitely help. And another challenge within the whole budgeting thing is commingling business and
mhm.
personal. And I know you see this all the time with bookkeeping, Candy.
Yeah, I was going to say that sounds like the next common mistake, right?
Yes, yeah, it is. It's
I
probably
see
very
this a
common.
lot. Hmm.
Yeah, I know you do see that a lot.
And
And
I try to explain why you shouldn't be doing that too, but there's some reasons on the business side alone. But why would you say, just even if, they're a sole proprietor or something, right? And it's not as urgent for them to like separate because of, a corporate entity is not supposed to mix. Why would you tell them, even from a personal perspective, not to mix business and personal?
well, I would advise them not to mix business and personal because when you mix them, it's hard to see what's going on. It's hard to
Hmm.
track progress. You see all this money in the bank account. Well, maybe not all that money is can be used for personal. Maybe a
Right.
good portion of that will be needed for business expenses. And so when you commingle, it's like you're muddying the water, and it's hard to really get clear uh, uh, measurement of your
Hmm.
progress. Again, I go back to that net worth statement. You really can't be accurate in that if you have, a savings account there. Well, that's really business,
Right.
and that will be used for payroll next month.
Hmm.
And it's misleading. So it's critical not to commingle, just so you can be better able to track
Hmm.
the progress and just what this situation is on both the business and the personal side.
Right.
And then you can feel free to know, okay, we really do have this excess cash, so let's invest in a SEP,
Hmm.
a retirement plan for self-employed. Let's pay off debt. Really, it makes decision making so much harder
Right.
when everything is commingled. It's just hard to figure out what's going on.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, but they
so,
might think it's all in one bank account, so it's easy, right? But
ah, no,
but
yeah,
yes, I even from the perspective just of the bookkeeping and helping the business owner side of it, realize, yes, you don't want to have that because again, it's not even easy to reconcile because you're going to put everything business in and not have the personal, and then you can't reconcile, or do you have to put the personal in the books, which really shouldn't be in the books, but yes. you know.
it's messy and confusing. It's
Hmm.
it's just not good. But I would say it is more difficult for business owners to make that distinction because there are some expenses that can be both personal and business.
Hmm.
It just makes more sense to make it business because you get the tax write-off. So it's not a very clear line of what's business and what's personal. But I would just say, as much as possible, make that distinction and try and keep them separate. I mean, definitely have a separate bank accounts, please.
Right. And
Have
credit
separate,
card accounts.
yes,
Yes.
yes, have separate bank
Yeah.
accounts, have separate um, credit cards, as much as possible. Definitely don't mix, one credit card have business expenses and personal expenses. That's just
Right.
makes life more difficult for bookkeeping and also for tracking what your expenses are.
Right. And hopefully they're never audited, but if so, it makes it even harder for that too.
Oh gosh, yes, exactly.
Yeah. So, but I'm sure you have another tip. There's so many different things we could probably, dip our toes into, but what would be another tip that you would share with the women business owners?
Well, I'd like to touch again on debt. I see debt as a common mistake where there's just too much debt. And when I say debt, I mean personal debt,
Hmm.
bad debt. As business owners, we know that debt is required sometimes to make investments in our business, and so
Right.
it's good debt. You need debt in order to grow.
Hmm.
But on the personal side, I think it's very easy to maybe be a little loose with that
Mm.
and have maybe too much in credit cards, car loans, consumer debt, you see. And so, again, and it goes back to having a budget, just making sure that you watch your personal debt and give it the same amount of attention you give your business.
Right.
So that's basically.
And I think it's good where you started to mention too, there can be good debt and you might have to invest in your business, because someone might be so afraid to have debt too and think that it's not a good thing to have, that they can't scale their business, they can't grow, whether it's purchasing more inventory or if they need new equipment, because they're afraid to take on that loan or, the line of credit. So I think touching on that, saying, once in a while, it is a wise investment because it's going to help you in the long run, but it's just being prudent, right?
Exactly. Yes. Having debt used strategically is a very good thing. Don't get me wrong. It's just that you also have to be mindful of the bad debt.
Exactly. So is there another mistake that you see business owners making that you wanted to discuss?
Yes. And this really became, oh my gosh, critical in 2020. And that's having liquidity, having an emergency fund. And, what we experienced, and still continue to experience with the pandemic, it's very difficult environment right now for for most business owners. However, the ones that have a better chance of surviving are those who had emergency funds, those who had cash, and then also those that weren't burdened by debt. Again, I'm hitting on the debt thing, but specifically having an emergency fund is so important, even on the personal side. So even for everyone else who's not a business owner, just having an emergency fund is so key, because you never know what's going to happen. No one saw this coming.
Right.
But even without that, things happen. Life happens. Things break. The refrigerator breaks. The roof needs fixing. There's always unexpected expenses. And to better prepare for the inevitable is to have cash on hand, an emergency fund. And, Candy, I used to recommend, I used to be like 3 to 6 months of living expenses. But after 2020, I'm recommending a year. I really recommend a year, because I doubt that I hope we won't have to experience what we're going through again in our lifetimes. But just in case something it shows that it can happen, things can happen. And it's best to be prepared and to have an emergency fund of a year of living expenses, I think would be, a really good thing. And, to put that money aside into a savings account. And I know that right now, the earnings on savings account is pretty much 0.0.
Right. You might get a penny or two.
You might get a penny or two, which is kind of like makes it worse. Oh my gosh, you get the statement for 4 cents. Okay.
Right.
But that money is not there to earn money. That money is just to be there for you. It's like an insurance policy. It's just there for you in case you need it. You don't have to worry about it going up or going down, but it will be there for you in case of emergencies.
Right.
So I would recommend that you just put that into that emergency fund. Just put it away where it's out of sight, out of mind. Maybe get an online account with Ally or PNC Bank. They seem to have the highest returns, even though it's still, relatively low. But it's a little higher than what you would get, say, in a bank or a financial institution. Again, having an emergency fund, having liquidity really helps to get you through the rough times.
Yep. That's so true. And I would tell people the same thing often when, I was meeting with someone and saying the same thing, like, let's make sure you have some cash on hand. You never know when some of those unexpected things are going to happen. And we don't even know, we're still in the midst of, this pandemic, and how long is this going to last? So I think it is so important to have that savings. And, I'm sure, talking about the future and retirement and, saving for that is important. But at the same time, having where you're not in such like dire straits because you don't have cash available is important too. So I don't know if that leads into is there another financial mistake that we should talk about?
Well, yes, I want to touch on something that I mentioned earlier
Mhm.
about women having too much cash. Now, this may contradict what I just said.
Right.
But you want to have cash for an emergency fund.
Mhm.
Excuse me, definitely. That's important. However, when it comes to investing, okay, so this isn't cash for emergency fund. This is your investment strategy, saving for the future, long-term goals.
Mhm.
What I see is that women don't invest enough. They have
Mhm.
too much in, say, a money market account or a savings account. And realistically, that's not going to get you where you want to go. You
Right.
cannot grow your assets in a money market account.
Mhm.
Inflation will basically eat all that. And so I'm finding that not enough women are investing in the stock market. And I
Mhm.
know investing in the market can be scary.
Right.
Um, I think the news makes it scary because every
Mhm.
day there's something, oh my gosh, the market is plummeting. It's just terrible, sell, sell, sell. But then when the market does well, they say the market's overheated. Where are the deals? Everything's, too expensive. And so wherever you look, it's just like, gosh, when is a good time to invest? It seems like every day it's
Mhm.
bad news. Well, the right time to invest is today, right
Mhm.
now, with what you have, and to not try and time the market because no one can time the market.
Right.
But what you want to do is just make sure that you're investing in a sound way where it's not you know too aggressive, where it's allocated and diversified based on your goals, your risk tolerance. And so you really don't have to worry. Once you have a good investment strategy, a good plan, you don't have to worry about whether the market's up or down or,
Right.
what's happening because you're not trying to time the market. Market timers are, in the end, their returns over the long term are lower than someone who just has a strategy and sticks with it and never sells when the market is down. And nor do you get greedy when the market's going up. You just
Mhm.
have a plan and you just stick with it.
Right. Right.
And so, the ups and downs of the stock market can be scary, especially, for business owners, because we're used to controlling more, like
Right.
what's going on. And we have no control over the stock market. That's true. And so, with that, you just let it do what it's going to do, but you don't react, you
Right.
don't sell or do anything. And
Mhm.
so part of a healthy investment plan is to have a portion of stocks, have a portion of bonds, and have something very boring and just stick with it.
Mhm.
And, and then over time, you'll be surprised how it really grows.
Right.
It just grows, and really without a lot of, you know, um, in and out of the market, it's best just to stay put. And so
Right.
that's another thing I see, just being too conservative when it comes
Mhm.
to investing.
Right.
And so the earlier you start, the better, so that you can let the compounding work for you.
Right. I think that's so true too. I think generally speaking, and of course this is just a generalization, but women are generally more conservative than men, and they'll take more risk earlier, and that's, where they can build that wealth. So like I said, I think just realizing that, you look at your risk tolerance, but then maybe there's actually, you can really go a little more risky than what you're looking at now because you have time. Like it's one thing if you're in your 60s or something, right? Or 70s, and you have to be
Mm-hmm.
more cautious. But if you're 20 or 30 years old and you have a lot of years ahead of you before retirement, then you can kind of wait out and, deal with the ups and downs of the market. Because in the long run, when you look at those trends, they trend up, right?
Oh,
So.
yes. In the long term, the market goes up.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
those who stay in the long term, yes. And so those who have a long term plan, they win. Those who sell when the market's down or when, in response to what's happening in the news, they're the
Right.
ones who lose out. So you just need to
Right.
stay put and stick with your strategy and pretty much ignore the news when it comes to
Right.
the stock market.
Like what I'm hearing you say is don't panic, right?
Don't
Yes, it might have
panic.
gone down, but that's the worst time. Like you said, is you see the market go down and then you panic and then you sell, right? Now you're selling it
Yeah.
like at a really low price. So yeah.
That's
So,
right.
mhm.
That's right. And it never fails. There'll be a huge dip, and then all the Main Street investors, a lot of them, they'll sell, and then the Wall Street people, they'll start buying the very next day.
Right.
So don't fall for that. Don't do it. Just stay in
Exactly.
there and don't panic.
Well, I know we have had a lot of great information to share. I know we're running out of time in terms of how much we have to discuss today. So I would love for you to say if you just have an offer that you would like to share with those who are listening and maybe they realize they need to, get more information or have a conversation. So what would you have for the listeners?
Yes, I welcome them to visit my website, dorseywealth.com, and I have a free ebook that they can download from my website, and it really gives more information on how to prepare for retirement and how to retire with confidence. It gives them a lot more tips of how I help my clients work and achieve the retirement that they desire. And so I'd ask them to go there and just download that. And if they also want to schedule time to chat with me, there's an online scheduling tool where they can schedule like a 30-minute phone call and we can chat about what it is that you're looking to accomplish or maybe what you're struggling with. And sure, I'd be more than happy to help you.
Perfect. And did you want to share like a phone number or email or any social media where they can reach out to you that way too?
Sure. Yes, they can email me at angela@dorseywealth.com.
Okay. And I think, first of all, this has just been great to have you again on the show. I really appreciate your taking the time to, chat with me again and sharing your expertise. So I
thank you,
appreciate
Candy.
that.
Absolutely. Love to be here.
Well, and I wanted to thank the listeners also for tuning into the show today. I hope you found this topic interesting and that it answered some of your questions about what are the top financial mistakes that women business owners make. If you have any additional questions or comments, be sure to reach out to Angela at the link that she shared or send us a message at media@abandp.com. And would you please share the show information with those you know? We'd greatly appreciate your support. Be sure to join us again next week as we discuss another important topic. And please remember, you can connect with us on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And my website is abandp.com. And you can find the podcast posted on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Until next time, have a great week.
Thank you for listening to Biz Help for You. Please join your host, Candy Messer, again next Tuesday. Have a terrific week.